Today is lecture number 2 of this Introduction to Physical Metallurgy class. And today we're gonna learn a lot of things. That is basically how the structure influence the property. Because in the previous lecture, we have discussed that the property of material will be affected by the structure. And for this Introduction to Physical Metallurgy, basically we will be dealing with the crystal structure and the microstructures, and you can also call nanostructures. So they basically affect the properties. That means in the previous lecture, the conclusion we obtain is that just by modifying the crystal structure or by modifying the microstructure of a material, we can modify the properties. So today we'll see some examples of that. And that is very interesting. You need to remember those examples also, and you can also search for new examples. You can apply your knowledge to explain those things. Fine. And second thing we'll discuss, that is basically different categories or different types of engineering materials. Just an introduction we'll learn today. So before moving into that, we can have two different types of material. This is type of classification, you can say. So we can have structural materials and we can have functional materials. So name itself is saying something. Structural materials means those kind of materials which will be used for making a structure. Structure means, for example, a civil structure like a building, like a breeze, some structure inside the sea itself for drilling your seabed to obtain some oils, like so structures. Or we can have automotive structures like train, cars, buses, right? So you understand, if we design those kind of structures, it may be a civil structure or it can be a automotive structure. So most important is what? Strength. Obviously strength is most important concern over there, right? Strength. And another part is sometimes deteriorative property, like chemical properties or environmental properties, because we don't want our structure to get damaged during service, right? So those kind of properties, right, mechanical properties and deteriorative properties comes under structural property, right? Because those properties are more important for a structure or structural application, right? Similarly, we can have functional material. Functional materials means those kind of materials have certain function to do, right? Like for example, your solar cell. You might have heard about solar cells, uh, which can store solar energy and give you electricity, for example. It may be a solar cooker, it may be a solar bulb, anything, right? Your smartphones are also, you can say, those are also functional materials, fine, because it performs some functions. So if we design a material for any particular function, like solar cell, smartphones, or any other materials, then some properties are desired. So those properties are functional properties, like optical properties, your electrical properties, magnetic properties, radiological properties, right? So we can have two types of properties now: functional properties and structural properties. Basically, structural properties means strength is the most important property, or mechanical properties are basically structural properties. But apart from mechanical properties, other properties you can say those are functional properties. Right? So suppose you want to design a solar cell, then optical property is most important, right? Obviously, because the solar cell will be exposed to the radiations, electromagnetic radiation that is coming from the sun. Fine. That is one of the example. Similarly, motors, generators, their electrical property is important, magnetic properties is important over there. Now this is the most important part of this course, because we can correlate everything with this slide at the end of this entire subject, right? So four important component of material science and engineering, and relationship between them in terms of designing, production and utilization. Suppose we want to design any material for any particular applications. It may be your structural application, it may be your functional applications, it may be any kind of materials. We are looking around any kind of materials. So if you want to design any kind of materials, and finally you do production of that, and finally you utilize that, these four components are important: processing, structure, property, performance, right? So for designing and production and utilization of any kind of material, these four things are important, right? So these four things are nothing but the four important components of material science and engineering, and they are represented by a tetrahedron. You can see this is a tetrahedron. You can see here structure is there, your properties is here, your processing is here, your performance is here. Tetrahedron means, tetra means four, hedron means faces, four faces. This is actually, we are representing this in form of a tetrahedron because each one of them is related to another one. That's why this is related to this and this and this. So this is also related to this, this and this. This is related to this, this and this, and this is related to this, this and this, right? So they are represented in form of a tetrahedron. Sometimes people call it as a material tetrahedron. If somebody will ask, draw a material tetrahedron, so you have to draw this kind of diagram, where you have to put processing, structure, property, performance, right? Okay, let me give an example. Fine. Suppose you want to design a car, sports car, right? So what is the main then what you expect, how it will perform? You expect it will perform like, you want the car should travel at a very high speed, obviously, because it is a sports car, right? It should travel with a high speed. And can you people tell me, what about the weight of the car? It should be less or more?
Less.
Very good. So that means, if you want to design a car for a sports applications where it will undergo racing, fine, there you require lightweight of the car, right? And it should travel at a very high speed, right? Obviously, if the car will be lightweight, it will travel with a high speed. That is the part. Fine. And you understand, if it will travel at a high speed, then consumption of fuel will be high also. If the weight will be high, the fuel consumption will be also high, right? But you don't want that. Again, you want the fuel efficiency should be good. It should not consume much amount of fuel, right? So that means, to show those kind of performance, lightweight, then your high fuel efficiency, so that the fuel consumption will be less, right? So that will be affected by the property. That will be affected by the property. And similarly, you also want, if there will be an impact, if there will be a collision of the car with another car or any structure, it should not get destroyed, or the person sitting inside the car will be saved, right? There should not be a severe accident should not be there, right? Severe casualty should not be there. So that will depend upon the property, how the material property is there, right? That means that property of the material should be good. It should be of high fracture resistance. That is one of the property. It should be of lightweight, right? And obviously that will give you good fuel efficiency. So I can choose aluminum, for example, because aluminum is lighter. Aluminum alloy, basically, aluminum alloy is a lighter. It has low density. It will give you low weight, obviously. Fuel efficiency will be more. And strength, some aluminum alloys have high strength, like 7000 series aluminum alloy. They provide high strength also. So that will fulfill your. So that is affected by property. So performance will be affected by property, and how property will be affected? Property will be affected by structure of that particular aluminum alloy or a particular metals or any materials, right? And structure will be affected by structure here means the microstructure and the crystal structure. Basically, for us, we are now dealing with microstructures. Now, structure will be affected by the processing, how you are going to process the material, right? So that means, a conclusion is what? Processing, structure, property, performance, all are related to one another, right? So if you change the processing, you can change the performance. If you change the processing, you can change the structure. If you change the processing, you can change the property, right? Similarly, if the property will be different, the performance will be different. Similarly, if the structure will be different, the property will be different. So they are actually linearly related. You can also call this is a linear relation, or the relation may be like this also in a material tetrahedron. Here there is another image you can see. There is another part, characterization. Characterization means it is a, we basically characterize the materials, right? We want to characterize the material. Characterize means we want to study the properties of that, how it will behave. Oh, so forget about that right now. This characterization can be done by using various characterization techniques we have. Like you can use a microscope, we can use some mechanical testing, as I told in the earlier class, that we can perform material testing. If you want to measure the strength, you have to perform testing on that. What is the strength of that, right? Similarly, we can use a microscope to study the structures. What is the crystal structure? What is the, not exactly crystal structure, what is the microstructures? So now finally, what is understanding the relationship between them for a given material in the is the heart of material science and engineering, and we can exploit them. We can exploit them to design a new materials, right? So you people have understood this one?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Processing. Okay, so if you have any doubt about processing, so processing means heat treatment is a kind of processing. We can have various kind of heat treatment. So heat treatment is a kind of processing. If you give a particular kind of heat treatment, we can get a particular kind of structure, right? We can modify the structure, we can modify the microstructure. Similarly, if we can modify the microstructure, we can modify the property depending upon our requirement, right? Then if the property will change, obviously the performance will change, right? So this part is very important. Remember. So we are the people, we are the materials engineers, or we are the metallurgical and materials engineers who can do this. That's why we are studying this IPM, Introduction to Physical Metallurgy. So in other way, I can say like this, for a single kind of materials, we can achieve different performance. How? Just by changing the structure of the material, right? Or we can select some different materials also if they have some desirable structures, or if we can modify that structure. Fine. Okay, now I will give a very beautiful example where we'll see how the property will get affected by change in the structure. Here basically I am talking about the microstructure. So for this explanation, I have chosen a particular material, that is alumina, Al2O3. So I have 3 discs of alumina. This is 1 disc of alumina. This is the 2nd disc of alumina, and this is the 3rd disc of alumina. The material is same, alumina, Al2O3. Fine. So we have disc 1, disc 2, and disc 3. So what is written over here? It is Gautam, GAUTM is written over here. So now, so this is written on a particular page, right? So now the moment I will put the alumina disc on G, and the 2nd alumina disc on the T, and 3rd alumina disc on the M. So this alumina disc is put on G, this alumina disc is put on T, and this alumina disc is put on M. So can you people figure it out?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, can you please give entry to Mona Lisa Acharya?
Okay. I request everybody, please don't join later. If you are getting late, please don't join then. Fine. So I have 3 discs of alumina, right? And now I have put each disk on, suppose one disk on G and the disk on T and a disk on M. So can you people figure it out what is happening after putting the disk on G, T and M? Can you people figure it out? Just look at G, T, M written over here, and after putting the disk, what is happening? This disk means it is a spherical shaped disk out of alumina.
The letters with
So
is
the
disk.
be hidden.
G
Sorry?
and T are visible, but M is not visible.
Yeah. Very good. You answer is right. So you can able to see the G is visible after keeping a disk of alumina on G. G is visible. That but what about T? T is partially visible, right?
Partially visible.
Partially.
Yes.
Partially visible. But what about M? M is now invisible. So the conclusion is what? Conclusion is this disk of alumina is completely transparent, right? That's why this is visible, right? But what about this disk, second disk of alumina? This is translucent,
Translucent.
right? So that means this kind of disk is allowing a little amount of light which is reaching to your eye. But this kind of disk is allowing all the light, right? All the light is passing through the G and reaching to your eyes. But what about this kind of disk? This kind of disk is opaque. Do not allow any kind of light to reach into your eyes. That's why it is not visible. The M is not visible. But the conclusion is what? Material is same, that is Al2O3 alumina. But why this is a transparent alumina? Why this is a translucent alumina? Why this is an opaque? This is due to different structure present in it. What kind of, they have different microstructures, right? Already it is written over here. So we can have a single materials, but the property will be different if they have different structures. So now I would like to explain it. You can see what is written over here. Disk 1 is written single crystal alumina. And disk 2 is written, this is a polycrystal alumina with no voids or porosity. But what about the third one? It is a polycrystal alumina with voids and porosity. So you understand what is the changes over here in the structure? First one is a single crystal. Second, 2 and 3 is polycrystal. But what is the difference between this polycrystal? This second disk is not having any porosity or void, but third one is having porosity and voids. So you understand when light is coming from this G and it is easily coming out without any deviation or without any scattering, and it is reaching to your eyes, right? Because it is a single crystal. Single crystal means it has only a single grain. I'll show you what is grain and all, right? So it is a single crystal means it is only having a single grain of alumina. But polycrystal means it has lot of grain inside the material. I'll show you the image of grain later, just after some slides. And what about seeds? So that means if a material have polygrain, many grains will be there, so that they have grain boundaries. And grain boundaries will do what? They will scatter the light so that all the light will not reach into your eyes. Some light will get scattered away from your eyes. That's why it is looking translucent. But what about here? Already it is a polygrain. That means lot of grains are there, lot of grain boundaries are there in between the grains, and you have voids and porosity. So what will happen? The light will get scattered by the grain boundaries present, and it will also scattered by the porosity or the voids present. That's why all the lights is not reaching into your eyes. That's why it is opaque. I think this part is clear.
Yes, sir.
So now the question is, why they have different structure? Can you tell me why they have different structure? The material is same, but structure is different. Someone is single crystal, someone is polycrystal, and someone is polycrystal with voids.
Because their property differs.
No. Why they have different structure? Just tell me. I have shown you this slide.
Meet our requirements.
No. You didn't get my point. My point is,
Because they are processed differently.
yes, very good. Because they have been processed in a different processing way or processing route. Already I have told you this is a relationship. If you want to change the structure, then you have to change the processing route or processing nature or processing way. Right? You can have a single material of alumina, but if you process them in different way, the structure will be changed. And once the structure will be changed, the property will change. So can you tell me what kind of property we are concerning here in this part? Optical property? Optical property, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
That is optical transmit. I have written over optical transmittance property. This is transmitting all the light. This is transmitting few light rays, but this is not transmitting all the light rays. That is getting scattered actually. Light is getting scattered. So I have written the conclusion is what? All these three materials are processed in different techniques. So if the optical transmittance property is important in service application, then each material will perform differently. Right? Okay, let me give a very good example. Suppose you are working in an steel plant and you are working with a furnace where the temperature is very high. So if the temperature is high inside a furnace or a structure, so what will happen? You cannot able to see inside what is happening, right? So you can make a hole in that. You can put a transparent alumina in that part. So what will happen? You can easily see inside the furnace what is happening. And this alumina have very high melting point. It will not melt. You understand my point here?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Actually, the structure of the furnace is made up of steel, right? But steel is not transparent. Everybody know. You can make a single crystal steel or polycrystal steel. That doesn't matter. It is not transparent. But you want to look inside the furnace. So you make a hole and you can put this part, this single crystal alumina over there. Single crystal alumina have very high melting point. Melting point is higher than steel also. You can easily see what is happening inside the furnace because this will be transparent one, right? Next. Now, here it is example of microstructures in a crystalline materials. Crystalline materials means those materials have crystals in it or grains in it. Basically, since we are dealing with metals and alloys, you have to remember metals and alloys are crystalline materials basically. You have to remember that. And what is that? We'll discuss that in coming lectures. What is crystalline materials and all. So you have to remember metals and alloys are crystalline in nature. They have grains or they have crystals in it. Some ceramics are also crystalline, like alumina, as I have given you an example. So which is seen under microscopes. So as I told, you have to remember the microstructures are not always visible through naked eyes. Through directly, you cannot able to see the microstructure in a material. What kind of microstructures are present in a steel or in any aluminium or in any copper or in any materials like any ceramics or any polymers? You cannot able to see easily through naked eyes. You need a microscope to see it. So that is we'll discuss what kind of microstructure we can have in a material or in a alloy or in a metal. Here also I have written, by changing microstructure or nanostructure and micro constituents of a material, the property can be altered. Altered means can be changed, and that result in change in the performance. So the conclusion of the topic is, if you want to change the performance of a material, you want a superior performance in a materials. So what you need to do? You need to change the microstructure of that particular material, or you can change the micro constituents also. What are the micro constituents? This is not the right time to discuss. That will be discussed in the coming lectures also, right? And also I have written some microstructures like grain can be visible with naked eyes. And in maximum case, metallographic samples preparation is needed to observe them with the help of microscope. So we need to do what? We need to prepare the sample first, and we need a microscope to see the microstructures, right? Very interesting. We in our department we have an optical microscope. By using that optical microscope, we can able to see what are the different structure present inside the materials, because those structures are not visible through naked eyes. Fine. Let me give a very good example here. Suppose if your parents are working in any aluminum industry, I don't know, you can ask them also. After melting the aluminum, when we are doing casting the aluminum, if you remember the casting, we are solidifying the molten aluminum to get a desired shape after solidification. That is called casting. Sometimes after casting the aluminum alloy or aluminum, the grains are easily visible sometimes with naked eyes. We don't need any microscope for that. So those are, you can say that is very good. Sometimes if the size of the grain is very small, we cannot able to see those grains. So that means if grains are visible through naked eyes, that means the size of the grains are very big. So cast aluminum, we can able to see those structures easily with naked eyes. And sometimes, if you remember, I told something that sometimes we give coating on some metallic materials so that they can survive in a particular environment. Do you people remember which kind of coating are basically given to the steels?
Zinc
Dragon.
coating.
Zinc coating. Very good. You people have remembered. We basically give zinc coating on the steels or iron pieces, right? You can see. Okay, you people have seen that PC breeze. I think you have seen PC breeze means I am talking about the steel structure present on the breeze. Have you seen that? It is completely looking like silver color. Have you seen that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you
Yes,
just go
sir.
to that breeze and look at the top structure of the breeze. That is made up of steel, but they have given a coating of zinc, so that it can survive the environment. It will not fade, right? So on that structure, sometimes the zinc grains are visible. Sometimes it is not always true. Sometimes some patches will be there. Some different color patches will be there. That is nothing but the grains of the zinc. Okay, so that is easily visible through your naked eyes sometimes. So these are, you have to remember, these are the microstructures which is visible through the microscopes, right? So what are those? Those are grain boundaries, porosity, different phases or mixture of phases, some second phase like precipitates, and inclusions. So that means if we change these microstructures in a material, we can change the property of that. Or presence of these things also affect the property of the material. Fine. So I have written some statement here. Mild steel, after polishing the small piece and etching, look a small region by blowing up the small region. We can able to see microstructures. What are the microstructures? Grain of the ferrite, which will appear as a lighter region, a brighter region, you can say, and grain boundaries. And the scale of the structure is in the range of micrometer. Yeah, if somebody may ask you why you are talking all the time microstructure. Microstructures means those structures whose dimension or whose scale or whose label is in the micrometer range, 10 to the power minus 6 meter. You understand my point now?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
That means this grain boundary have a dimension or have a scale or have a dimension of 10 to the power minus 6 meters nearly. So those are not visible through our naked eyes. We need a microscope, because microscope function is what? It will blow off the image, or it will blow, or it will magnify the particular structure so that we can able to see them easily.
Excuse
Okay.
me, sir.
Yes.
So, what does inclusion mean?
Yeah, this is not the right time to discuss, but anyway, if you ask, let me explain. Inclusions means those are basically some oxides present in the steel. For example, suppose you are dealing with a plain carbon steel. The best example of inclusion is inclusion of sulfide. Sulfide of like manganese sulfide, MnS. So steel means, you understand, it is iron basically containing some amount of carbon, right? This is the important part. But if it contains manganese sulfide, which is not desirable, so that is an inclusion. Inclusion is a kind of impurity, you can say, but that is in form of oxides, or it may be in form of sulfide, it may be in form of silicate. Those are inclusions actually. And precipitates means this is a second phase. Second phase means, suppose steel is a primary phase. The second phase precipitate means it is a compound. It is a compound of carbides, or it may be a nitride. It may be a basically carbides and nitrates are your precipitates, or it may be a intermetallics. Two metals will be present together. Fine. All these things will be discussed in the coming lectures. No need to worry about that. Porosity, you understand?
Yes,
Some
sir.
empty space will be there in between the grains or in between the structure. Some voids may be there. And grain boundary, I'll show you soon. And you have to remember, if you want to find out the crystal structure, then you need a XRD, X-ray diffraction analysis. X-ray, you need X-rays. Like you want to see any fracture in your bone, then you are using X-ray. So similarly, X-rays are also used to see the crystal structures. Okay, now you can see the grains, grain boundary, the phases. Voids are not present over here. Anyways, so what I have written? I have written same steel. This one are the microstructures. 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 microstructures here now. Because all these structures have a dimension of 10 to the minus 6 meters nearly. Very small. It cannot be able to, you can able to see this microstructure by using a microscope. Fine. So this microstructure is from, all these 4 microstructure is from same steel. Plain carbon steel otherwise. Plain carbon steel means it has iron and carbon as an alloying element. Fine. But what I have written, but different microstructures. Steel is same, but we have different microstructures. You can able to see easily. This structure is different from this structure. This structure is different from this structure. And this structure is different from this structure, right? So you can have a same steel, but we can have a different microstructure. How? It is written over here. Different microstructure here means different phases are present. This phase is different from this phase is different from this phase, like this. Due to change in the carbon composition, lead to change in the mechanical property. Fine. So behavior of this steel or property of this steel is different from this. Property of this steel will be different from this steel. Property of this steel will be different from this steel. Why? Because they have different microstructures. As I told, if you can able to change the microstructure, we can able to change the property. So different steel will behave in a different way. If you measure the hardness of this one, 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 all will be different. You measure the strength will be also different. But the material is same. That is same steel, same plain carbon steel. Why the property is getting different? Why the hardness value is different? Why the strength is different? You understand? Why?
Because of different microstructure.
Because of different microstructure in them. Very good. That's why you understand. If we can able to change the microstructure, we can able to change the property simply. Suppose this one. This is written what? Ferrite. No need to have a confusion on this. All will be discussed in later lectures. Fine. So this is having only. So ferrite in the steel is very soft. So if you measure the hardness will be less, the strength will be less. But the moment perlite is coming, you can see a new structure is coming out due to change in the carbon concentration. So we have ferrite and perlite, both things. So this is a new phase or new microstructure. So strength will again increase because perlite will give you some more hardness and more strength. But here you can see all are perlite. The ferrite have gone. There is no ferrite. Ferrite is a soft phase and perlite is a hard phase. So when we have all perlite, so what will happen? Hardness and strength will increase or decrease?
Increase.
Increase because perlite is harder, stronger than ferrite. Fine. So here you can see we have a new phase again. Cementite is coming here. Some cementite is here. So we have perlite, which is already hard and strong, and we have another hard phase, that is cementite. So again, your hardness and strength will increase. So in other way, you can say, listen it carefully. If we have different kind of phases in a particular material, the property will also change. Because phase comes, I have written over here, different phase. Because why? Because different phase have different nature or different characteristics. Some phase may be soft, some phase may be hard, some phase may be brittle, some phase may be very hard. Like here, the cementite is the hardest phase available. Perlite is in between them, but ferrite is the softest one. And what are these? These are grain and grain boundaries. This is a grain, and these are the grain boundaries. This is a grain, and these are the grain boundaries. So each grains are separated by a boundary that is called grain boundary. You people have understood? So here also grain and grain boundary is present, but inside the grain we have certain kind of phases. This is perlite called. This is all the grains are covered with perlite grains. These are grain boundaries. Here cementite is present over grain boundaries. I think you people have understood what is the grain boundaries and phase.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Suppose one day your father call you and ask, since you belongs to metallurgy or metallurgical or materials engineering department, so can you tell me, suppose I have a mild steel, I have a mild steel with me, can I change the property of the mild steel? I want these steels to get more harder and more stronger. So what will be your answer? Can I repeat the question?
Sir, by adding more carbon.
Yeah, you can say we can add more carbon so that we can change the phase. We can obtain different phases and we can change the property. Very interesting. But if the question will be, okay, fine, I don't want to add any kind of alloying elements like carbon. I want to do something else. I don't want to do any kind of melting, because if you want to add carbon into the steel, you have to melt it first, right? But your father don't want to melt it. Your father want that this steel should be remaining solid, and he want some higher strength or higher hardness value. So can you people do that? Just think of that. Yes, you can do that. Just do what? Just do hammering on it. This is not the right time to explain further, but let me tell you here. If you hammer the steel with a high load, what will happen? It will get elongated somewhat. It will change its shape somewhat, right? You measure the strength and hardness after hammering it. You'll get the hardness will be more and the strength will be more. That is called strengthening of the steel by doing plastic deformation. This is not the right time to discuss that. Not the right time to discuss the mechanism of that. Just by hammering the steel, you will get high hardness value, high strength value. You can perform an experiment today itself. You take a safety pin, fine. You try to bend it. You can easily bend a safety pin, right? Yes or no? By your hand only?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
But you try to do what? You try to bend it again in reverse direction. It will again bend, but try to bend again. Repeat the cycle. In one time, you'll find you can able to bend it. It may bend, but it will bend in a different reason. You got my point?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
You
sir.
try it today and you try to bend the safety pin in a cyclic way. First bend, again you bend it, you find that a time will come when you cannot able to bend the safety pin where it has been bent earlier. That means that particular reason has been hardened or strengthened due to this bending. That is actually called plastic deformation. So I haven't changed any composition. I haven't changed any I haven't changed any composition. I haven't changed anything else, right? But the properties has been changed. Why? Some structure is changing over there due to bending only, due to generation of some defects. We'll discuss that in coming lectures. Okay, this is a very interesting image. Just look at this image. Can you people figure it out? What is happening if I'll move from here to here? What is happening? From 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Sir, the grain structure is
The grain
changing.
structure
They
is
are
changing.
coming
Very,
closer.
very good. What kind of grain structure is changing? The size?
Bigger to
Yes or no?
smaller.
Very good.
Yes,
The
sir.
size of the grain here is bigger. And when I'm moving to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I'm reducing the size of the grain in this direction. The smallest grain over here is 8. The biggest grain is over here. So the point is what? This is the grain structure of a mild steel. Again, you take a mild steel, you prepare the sample, you look under a microscope. Suppose initially the grain size is this one, and you do some processing, the grain size will be reduced to this one. Again, you do some processing, the grain size will be reduced to this one. Finally, after doing different processing, I am reducing the size of the grain. So now can you tell me the property, the hardness or the strength or any kind of mechanical property will remain same or it will change?
So it will change.
It will change. Very good. It will change, because already we have discussed earlier that if we can able to change the microstructure, then we can able to change the property, right? So here the microstructure is what? Can you tell me which kind of microstructure is this? Grain structure.
Grains.
Grain and grain boundaries are present, right? Because already I have shown you this one. Microstructure means grain boundaries, right? So here, just by modifying the size of the grain, we are able to change the property. And I have written some interesting point. You can see, technically, bigger grains are called coarser grain. You have to remember that. We metallurgy people call coarser grains. That means you understand it is a bigger grain. And finer grain means this is a smaller grains. So that means I can say this is a coarser grain and this is a finer grain. Or the grain is getting refined. In technical way, I can say we are doing refining of the grain, or we are doing grain refinement. The term is called grain refinement. Grain refinement means we are converting the coarser grain into finer grain. So if we are doing grain refinement, then we are changing the property of the material. That means now can you people tell me if your father will again come and ask you that take this piece of mild steel and do some processing so that I will get change in property, or I'll get high hardness or high strength. So what you will do? You give a heat treatment. Hammer it is one part. Forget about that. That is a very simple way. You can do some processing. As I told, do you remember the heat treatment? Just give some heating and cooling cycle. You can change the size of the grain. Then obviously the property will change. So here I have written strength increases with grain refinement. So finer is the grain, higher is the strength, higher is the hardness value. Smaller is the grain, higher is the strength and hardness value of the metallic materials. But I would like to comment something over here. As I have told, this grain and grain size basically in the micrometer level, 10 to the minus 6, fine. But the moment if you reduce the size of the grain below 100 micrometer, if the size of the grain will be below 100 micrometer, 100 micrometer, right? Or if the grain size is in between if the size of the grain will become below 100 nanometer, not micrometer, below 100 nanometer. Nanometer means 10 to the power minus 9 meter. Or if you have a material having grains whose size is in between 1 to 100 nanometer, then that kind of material is called nanomaterials. Why? Because the grain structure is in between 1 to 100 nanometer. So in this range, actually property may be different. Property may be different means maybe again your hardness and strength will decrease. So in the micrometer level, if you are refining the grain size, the strength is increasing. Finer is the grain, higher is the strength, higher is the hardness value. But if you are in the nanometer range, 1 to 100 nanometer range, the property will be something different. That means if you are reducing the grain size, that doesn't mean the strength will increase or hardness will increase. It may vary. Some certain mechanism is playing over there. So this is not the right time here. We'll discuss that in some part of the lecture. Fine. I think the concepts are clear up to this.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So which kind of material is this? Can you people tell me? This is a mild steel, microstructure of a mild steel, but what you can call it? Single crystal or polycrystal?
Polycrystal.
Polycrystal.
Very good. The metals, the alloys which we are dealing with in day-to-day life are basically polycrystalline materials, or polycrystalline alloys, or polycrystalline metals, because they have poly means many, crystals means many number of crystals, right? Or you can easily say polygrain also, polygrain materials, fine. Now there is a question: what determines the property of engineering materials? So engineering materials are which we are concerned with in day-to-day life. So how the property of those engineering material, what will determine that? So these are the 4 important things you have to remember. If you are graduate in metallurgy, then you should remember these 4 things. These 4 things will affect the property of any engineering material. The first one is the chemical composition. Few slides before I have explained that. Can you tell me the answer? Can you give an example? How you can change the chemical composition, the property will change. Just by changing the carbon percentage in the mild steel, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Just we are changing the weight percentage of carbon in the mild steel or in the plain carbon steel, I am getting different property. Automatically the structure is getting changed by changing the composition, fine. Similarly, the phase. If you change the phase, then the property will change, because if you remember, here we have a ferrite phase earlier, then some new mixture of phases is coming, that is pearlite, and some new phases is coming, cementite. So different phases have different nature, so property will change. So by changing the phases, you can also change the property. You understand my point? But this part is very important for us, fine. This part you can see we can change the types of phase to change the property. We can change the relative proportion of the phase. Relative proportion of the phase means, suppose 2 phases are there. One is softer phase, one is harder phase, and you need high hardness and high strength. Then what you will need to do? You can increase the proportion of harder phase. Property will increase. Similarly, suppose you want more ductility. So what you need to do? You increase the amount of soft phase. Then obviously the ductility will increase. So relative proportion of phase is also important. And size and shape of phase is also important. What is the size of the phase? It is smaller or bigger? Already we have discussed that earlier in the earlier slide with the grain size. If we have like this, if we have this kind of structure, only ferrite is there. So if we want to increase the strength, so what we can do? Can you tell me? Comment on the size. We can reduce the grain
Decrease
size.
yes, sir.
Yes, we can reduce the grain size. The phase is same, ferrite. But if you are reducing the size of the grain here, it will become harder, stronger. But you want more ductility, then what you can do? Just increase the grain size.
Bond.
Very good. So that means we are the people who are playing with the microstructures so that we can able to get a desirable property. Sometimes we need high ductility, sometimes we need high strength, sometimes we need high hardness. So we need to play with the microstructures. Sometimes we increase the grain size, sometimes we decrease the grain size, sometimes we add some alloying elements to change the phases. Sometimes we play with the relative proportion of the phases. We decrease some phases, we increase some phases, like that. Fine. And distribution of phases is also important. Distribution of phases means, this is not the right time, I'll show you the images later. Distribution of phases means sometimes phases are distributed in a uniform way. Sometimes they may be present in a particular region, like along the grain boundaries, or they may be present inside the grain. So that also affects the property. Now another thing is defect structure present. See, basically the metallic materials, the alloys which we are dealing with, they are polycrystalline materials. Already I've told you. And those materials are not defect free actually. They are not ideal crystals. They contain some defects. Those defects are also called crystalline defects or lattice defect. So those defects also change the property of the materials. And very interesting part is, okay, if a material have defect, what you understand? The property will be poor or good?
Poor.
Poor,
Poor.
obviously poor. But in the later lectures, you will identify that these defects are also help you in increasing the property, increasing the performance. That means crystalline defects or these lattice defects are not always detrimental, are not always bad for our property. They're sometimes essential to increase the property. This is not the right time. I'll discuss that again. So now, and the thing is residual stresses and its distributions. So our materials, because of different processing, like heat treatments or any mechanical working, those are processing. So by doing different processing, sometimes we can have residual stresses in it. So these residual stresses also affect the property, because residual stresses are actually not required, not good for our property. They are detrimental actually. They are bad for our properties of our materials. So all these four things will affect the property of any materials. Chemical composition, phases involves all these things. Then defect structures, those are lattice or crystalline defects, and residual stresses. Fine. Now there is an interesting point. Now I will explain the examples. Chemical composition. Suppose, as I have told, one example, like in case of plain carbon steels, if you change the chemical composition of the plain carbon steels, if you change the chemical composition of simply carbon, the property is getting changed, right? Similarly, another example I would like to give, OFHC. OFHC is oxygen-free high conductivity copper. So here I am giving an example of copper. Suppose you have two pieces of copper. In one piece of copper, the amount of oxygen is negligible. It is below ppm level. Ppm level means parts per million level. That means you can, otherwise you can say it is completely free of oxygen, right? But you have another copper which contains lot of, or a ppm level of your oxygen content. So what is the difference between them? One is free of oxygen and the one is having some parts per million amount of oxygen. If you measure their electrical conductivity, then electrical conductivity will be higher or good or excellent for this OFHC, the copper which is free from oxygen. Even ppm level of oxygen is not there. But the moment and the copper is having ppm level of oxygen, the electrical conductivity will decrease or electrical resistivity will increase, right? So for electrical application where you want to transmit the electricity, so which copper you will use? The copper containing oxygen or copper which is free of oxygen?
Free of oxygen.
Free of oxygen.
Free of
So the conclusion is what? The conclusion is due to difference in chemical composition, the electrical property is getting changed. You understood my point?
Yes,
One
sir.
is showing
Yes,
good
sir.
electrical conductivity, one is showing poor electrical conductivity. So the copper wearing you have in your home are basically OFHC, oxygen-free high conductivity copper. Even ppm level of oxygen is not there. Forget about in gram. Oxygen in gram. Okay. So another example here, stainless steel instead of plain carbon steels. Suppose you take a steel which is having only carbon and you take another steel which is having chromium and nickel. Chromium means above 12% chromium in your steel, and you put it in the atmosphere. Both are steel. Both are steel. But one steel is having carbon only and the steel is having chromium and nickel, and chromium amount is above 12%. So what changes you will find? After 1 year, what you will see? Can you tell me?
it will start eroding.
Very good. The plain carbon steel, which is having only carbon, that will change its color first. It will become some reddish brown color because of formation of iron oxide layer. And after some years, this iron oxide layer will remove, the material become thinner and thinner. It will look like zombie otherwise, you can say. It will look very poor, right? But the stainless steel, in the other hand, what will happen to the stainless steel? It will remain still shiny. It will remain still shiny. There will be no change in appearance much. There may be a very light change in appearance, but it is negligible. The stainless steel will appear as shiny for years and years. Why? Because the presence of this chromium and nickel. So what I mean to say is, just by changing the chemical composition, the properties is changing. So what kind of property I am talking about in this part?
Luster.
Chemical.
No.
Chemical,
Property.
chemical.
Deteriorating.
Chemical property,
Chemical
environmental
property.
property. Both chemical property, environmental property, both together are called which kind of property?
Deteriorating.
Yes.
Deteriorate.
Yes, this kind of property. So this kind of property is good for stainless steel as compared to plain carbon steel. So you can able to see, you can identify that by just changing the chemical composition, we can modify the property. So this example is over. Similarly, steel instead of pure iron. Pure iron will easily corrode, easily deteriorate, easily degrade, but steel will not deteriorate easily because of different chemical composition. Pure iron means only iron. Steel means it contains some alloying elements like carbon, maybe nickel, maybe chromium, like that. Another example of phase distribution. I'm talking about phase here, phase distribution. Cementite location affect the fracture toughness of the steel. So fracture toughness is a important property of a steel or any structural material. So the presence of cementite will affect, or where the cementite is present, that will affect the property of the steel. If cementite will present along the grain boundaries, then it is detrimental. The fracture toughness will be poor because cementite is a very hard and brittle phase. The crack or the fracture, the crack will easily propagate through the grain boundaries. But if the cementite will present inside the grain, that is not harmful basically. Or in other way, I can say, if the cementite will be present along the grain boundaries and that is in a continuous network form, that is detrimental. Because cementite is a brittle phase. Once a crack will form along the grain boundaries, the crack will easily propagate. So that means if you have a steel and in that steel you have a cementite phase and cementite is present in a network form along the grain boundaries, that steel is not having a good fracture toughness value. The fracture toughness is very poor. But instead of that, if the cementite phase is present inside the grain, there is no problem. Or in other way, I can say, if the cementite is even present along the grain boundaries, but that is not a continuous network, that is a discontinuous network, then that is also good, having good fracture toughness. I think you people have understood how the distribution of phase is affecting the property.
Yes.
Distribution means where the phase are present. It is present along the grain boundaries, or it is present inside the grain, or it is present like in a discontinuous form, or it is present in a continuous form. That's also affect the property. Fine. Then phase shape. See, the phases I am talking about, like ferrite, perlite, or cementite, or any other different phases, or your second phase particles, your precipitates. They may be spherical, they may be elongated, they may be in form of networks. They also affect the properties. Fine. Let me give an example here. You should remember. Suppose you are dealing with two pieces of cast iron. So in one cast iron, you have spherical shape graphites. Spherical shape graphite. Cast iron have graphite structure. So if in one piece of cast iron, you have spherical shape or spheroid shape graphites uniformly distributed everywhere. In another cast iron, same cast iron, composition is same and material is same cast iron, but in second cast iron you have needle shape or some flaky shape this graphite. So can you people tell me which cast iron will be ductile and which cast iron will be brittle one, or which cast iron will be having good fracture toughness and which cast iron will be having poor fracture toughness? Just use your mind. One is spherical.
Spherical shape.
Spherical shape will be having good fracture
But
toughness
more
or poor
ductile.
fracture toughness? More ductile.
Poor.
And what about fracture toughness?
Poor, sir.
Poor
Fracture
or good?
Good.
Actually good. You have to remember here which one is important. The shape is important. Here I am talking about the shape. In one cast iron, the shape of the graphite is spherical. In another cast iron, the shape of the graphite is flaky type, or needle shape, right? So the important point is the shape of the phase is important. Spherical means the concentration of stress acting on the cast iron will be uniform because the graphite is spherical in form, right? But if there is a needle shape or flaky shape, so what will happen? Concentration of stress distribution will be not uniform. It will be more along the edges of the flaky shape graphite because they are pointed one. You understand my point?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, let me give an example. Very good example. Okay, fine. You take a nail, iron nail. Have you ever tried to push it into the wall? Have you ever tried? Have you ever hammered a nail inside the wall?
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes,
So
sir.
what happens? If you take a very pointed nail and if you take a flat nail, which one will be easy to go inside the wall?
Pointed nail.
Pointed nail. Pointed. Why pointed nail? Have you ever think about that?
Surface area.
Surface area. Okay, surface area matters.
Low
But can you
surface area.
justify that? You are hammering with the same hammer, with the same amount of force or load. But the nail which is pointed one is going inside easily. But sometimes it happens, if you see, while you are striking the nail, it sometimes become blunt. And at that moment, you cannot able to push it further. Yes or no? Have you ever tried that?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So why this is happening? Because the pointed nail means all the stress are getting concentrated at that particular sharp point. You understand my point now? The load you are applying, the stress you are applying, that is concentrated at a particular point. That means all the stresses are acting at a particular point. Yes or no?
Yes.
That's why
Yes,
it is
sir.
going inside. That's why it is getting penetrated into the wall, right? But what about the blunt nail or flat nail? The distribution of stress is not what? At a particular point. It is getting distributed around a particular location. You understand my point? So that's why it is not getting into the wall. So that is the correlation of the flaky graphite or needle shaped graphite with the spherical form of graphite in a cast iron, right? So that's why if you want high ductility cast iron, you convert your flaky graphite into spherical form. We are the people who can do that. We know the processing route. Just by giving some heat treatment, just by adding some alloying element also, we can convert flaky graphite into spherical form of graphite inside the cast iron. And we can bring ductility into the material, or we can increase the fracture toughness of the cast iron. You people have understood?
Yes, sir.
Fracture toughness means the crack which forms cannot easily propagate. That is the fracture toughness. If crack will easily propagate, it has poor fracture toughness. If the crack will not easily propagate, it has high fracture toughness. Fine. Okay, I will stop here for today. Okay, if you have any questions, you can ask me. Up to this. Just feel free to ask questions. See, many things which I am discussing over here are not in your textbook, right? I am teaching you some extra things which will be beneficial for your higher studies or for higher semesters, right? So please do attend the classes regularly. That's why. And I will give you a lot of examples so that your concepts will be completely clear. And please make the note properly.